Hello dear students. In last lecture, we studied that Mendel's work, in spite of being so revolutionary, so futuristic, it remained unrecognized for such a long time. We studied various reasons. But today, we will discuss the reasons what led to the rediscovery of his work. What were the events that took place because of that his work could come to the light? Because when he did his work, the cell biology was in its initial stages. It was just blooming. And by the beginning of 20th century, that there was discovery of chromosome, there were better microscopy. So his work could be recognized in a better way. So let us see who were the people who contributed for his work to be known to the world. Mendel published his work Inheritance of Characters in 1865. But we know that most of the biologists of his time did not recognize his work because of various reasons. The main reason was his assumptions were quite futuristic and unusual, and he could not give any experimental evidence of the presence of alleles. Later on, when there was an advancement of microscopy and chromosomes were discovered, the concept of alleles was correlated with genes. So in 1900, there were three scientists who are now known as the rediscoverer of Mendel's work, who performed his experiments again, and they are Hugo de Vries, Carl Correns and Erich von Schermach. They are known as the rediscoverer of Mendel's work. After studying the rediscovery of his work, now let us switch over to the next concept, that is chromosomal theory of inheritance. See, the chromosome or the behavior of chromosome during gamete formation and during the fertilization was known to be very similar to the concept given by Mendel. So this was studied by two scientists and which was later on called as chromosomal theory of inheritance. So let us study who did this work. In 1902, two scientists, Theodore Boveri and Walter Sutton, they studied Mendel's laws of inheritance and also the chromosomal behavior during meiosis, and observed that both, that is chromosomal behavior and the behavior of genes or alleles as proposed by Mendel, they resemble very closely. They explained that both chromosomes and genes segregate during the process of gamete formation, and only one of each pair is passed on to the gametes. However, they differ in the way they segregate. For example, in case of genes, independent pairs segregate independently of each other, whereas in second case, in chromosome, only one pair segregates independently of other. So they also correlated the behavior of chromosomes during meiosis anaphase. During anaphase, when the chromosomes have come to the metaphasic plates, these chromosomes, they are randomly arranged, and during anaphase they start moving to the opposite poles. So this movement can be independent of each other. For example, there could be two cases. So on left side you can see the orange chromosome is aligned with green chromosome, whereas on right the orange chromosome is aligned with red chromosome. So during the anaphase, when the chromosomes they segregate and move to the opposite poles, you can see two cases. For example, orange and green chromosomes can segregate together in one case, or the same cell may show another combination where orange and red chromosomes segregate together. So on the basis of these observations, certain conclusions were like, number one, chromosomes have individuality, and chromosomes occur in pairs with members of each pair contributed by each parent, and paired chromosomes separate from each other during meiosis, and they observed that similar behaviors were also shown by the genes. So they were of the opinion that both pairing of chromosomes and separation of chromosomes is similar in case of the alleles or the genes as explained by Mendel. This table is given in your book, table number 5.3, which shows a comparison between the behavior of chromosomes and genes. One question is asked here. The question is, can you tell which of these columns, A or B, represent the chromosome and which represents the gene? So on the basis of what I explained you through the diagram and animation, you can tell that column A represents the genes and column B represents the chromosomes, because they basically differ on the basis of the way they segregate. For example, in case of a gene, independent pairs present on a chromosome segregate independently of each other, whereas in case of chromosome, one pair segregates independently of another pair. So column A represents the genes and column B represents the chromosome. Similarly, whatever concept I explained you, the same concept is given here also. The independent assortment of chromosomes. Based on that, only Sutton and Boveri gave their laws of inheritance. So today we have studied two concepts, that is rediscovery of Mendel's work and chromosomal theory of inheritance. In previous lectures we have already studied the exceptions for law of dominance. In next lecture we will be studying about some exceptions for the third law of inheritance, that is law of independent assortment. In that we will be studying about polygenic inheritance, and we will be also studying about the linkage.